Getting that no-start heartbreak from your bike has to be one of the worst feelings in the world, especially when you're racing against time like this young man was. Unfortunately, even the intervention of his older brother, who is a skilled craftsman, and the genius behind the Restoration T2 channel on YouTube, couldn't save the moment. Frustrated and fired up to fix the mess, this determined restorer went hunting for a new bike. That desperate search led him straight to the most rusted Kawasaki Ninja motorcycle in history, and I mean that literally. The frame is infested with rust, the engine is blown, and the tank is utterly corroded. In fact, the entire bike is a disaster. But can this restorer bring it back from the dead? Speaking about discovery, there wasn't much to uncover about this bike except that it is a member of the Kawasaki Ninja motorcycle series, and every inch of it was drowning in rust. Every component had been left to rot for years, and maybe even decades. It's hard to imagine how the restorer plans to undo all that damage, but every comeback has to start somewhere. Usually, disassembly is the first phase of restoration, but not this one. This bike was so filthy it needed a serious wash before anything else. Once cleaned up, he gave the ignition a try. The silence was deafening. The key wouldn't even turn. So he hit it with some penetrating oil. This time, the key turned, but the engine stayed silent. So he swapped the battery and tried again. Yet, no luck. Refusing to give up, he replaced the oil and gave it another shot. And once again, nothing. The engine refused to budge. Just one failed attempt after another. After all those failed attempts, he knew he had to tear the whole thing down and rebuild it from scratch. Despite the bike's rough shape, the disassembly was smoother than expected. Everything came apart cleanly until the seized bolts on the handlebars put up a fight, but they didn't stand a chance, not against the perfect combo of penetrating oil and the restorer's relentless drive. With the bike stripped to its bare bones, it was officially time to shift into the next phase. With the focus of a seasoned pro, he grabbed the main frame and went at it with a grinder. No inch of metal left untouched. The process was slow, gritty, and exhausting, but necessary to bring the frame back to life. And believe it or not, he was just getting started. The toughest parts were still ahead. That came out clean, smooth by all standards. And even though the bike was still far from finished, the frame's transformation said it all. This project was in safe hands. Next up were the wheels. Earlier, I mentioned that the transformation of the frame was remarkable, but the wheels? They're absolutely stunning. But guess what? The restorer wasn't even done with them. Next, he lowered some corroded parts into a cleaning solution, and boom, like magic, the grime started melting away. Once the bubbles settled and the liquid turned murky, the restorer knew the job was done. He pulled the parts out, gave them a fresh spray wash, and then prepared them for paint. The screws and bolts were not left out as well. And just when you thought he was done, he sent them through yet another deep clean. This time, it was an electrolyte bath. At this point, he figured it was time to start piecing everything together. And why not? After all that effort, he had earned the right to call the shots. With the initial reassembly done, he turned his attention to the heart of the bike, the engine. Here it is, looking all fresh, clean and sharp after that first round of deep cleaning, but it still needed a full-on service. With all the necessary parts restored, it's time to assemble the engine. Now the engine was fully rebuilt and looking pristine, but it still wasn't ready for action because it was still missing one major piece of the puzzle. You guessed it, a bold, fresh coat of paint. The wiring harness was next in line. Next was the installation of the engine. The restorer ensured every component lined up perfectly and every bolt was torqued down tight. But this wasn't just any installation. It was a major milestone that pushed this restoration closer to the big moment that would determine the fate of this restoration. But before we get to feel the thrill of that high-stakes finale, let's hit the brakes for a second and take a ride down memory lane to uncover the history behind this bike. The history of the Kawasaki Ninja series began back in 1984 with the legendary GPZ 900R. A bike so fast and ahead of its time, it lit up the big screen in Top Gun. But it wasn't just a movie star. This beast was a street icon as well. With a liquid-cooled 16-valve engine, it could tear down the road at speeds hitting 150 miles per hour. Sure, newer Ninja models have blown past that number, but the nameplate still stands as a cornerstone for Kawasaki and a true legend in the motorcycle world. All right, now that we've revved through the Ninja's backstory, let's head back to the workshop for the final thrilling phase of this epic restoration. Here's the restorer threading the wiring harness through the frame toward the front end of the bike. Each connector finds its home snapping softly into fuse boxes, ignition coils, and handlebars. With the heart of the bike now wired and ready to beat again, the restorer decided to test the engine. That certainly wasn't the expected outcome, but no need to panic because the restorer had it covered. Next up, he grabbed the carburetor and gave it a full strip down and a thorough wash in an ultrasonic washing machine. The restoration was as clean a job as you'd ever find, but the reassembly was even better. The jets, floats, screws, and gaskets, every subcomponent was expertly reassembled. And it seemed like we were all but set to unveil and test this icon. But then, plot twist. The fuel tank and a few other key components still hadn't been restored. Forgotten, cracked, and completely blanketed in rust, the tank looked like a lost cause. Still, the restorer wasn't backing down. He picked it up, and the rest, as they say, is history. While working on the tank, he touched on the fender and other components. Then, he fired up the spray gun and got to work, coating the tank, exhaust, and a bunch of other parts with fresh color and shine. Now the finish line was in sight, but there were still a few loose ends to tie. Like a true craftsman, the restorer crouches by the wheel, sliding the freshly rebuilt caliper into place over the rotor. His hands move with calm precision as he tightens the bolts and installs the Kickstarter. From there, he moved on to other components. Notice the seat was missing? Well, that's because somehow it escaped the radar of the restorer, but not anymore. As the countdown to the big reveal begins, he adds the final touches: stickers, aesthetic accents, and the small details that make a build truly personal. What once was a pile of rusted scrap, a forgotten machine left to rot, is now a fully restored icon, revived, rebuilt, and ready to tear up the road. But before then, the restorer had the honor of presenting the bike to his brother. Surely this has to be one of the proudest moments of his life. But here's where it gets even better. Despite putting in all the hours, sweat, and effort, he didn't jump on the bike for the first ride. Instead, he handed the keys to his brother and let him take it for a spin. It was wholesome. It was heartwarming. It was everything. Apart from being a top-tier restorer, you can tell he is also a solid human with a selfless heart. And honestly, if there was an award for the best brother in the world, I think this dude just won it. But do you agree, and is there anything you would have changed in the restoration? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And while you're at it, check out the other jaw-dropping restoration videos on the channel.